Joining me now is Joe Kent, a retired Green Beret running for Congress in Washington. He's also a Gold Star husband. Joe, this is sickening, disgusting, and also people who question whether this may happen were told to sit back and be quiet while the vetting process, the White House told us, was guaranteed to work.
Right, it's completely ridiculous, but par for the course. We were told for the duration of this horrible evacuation that the main priority was to get out Afghans. The intimation there was that these Afghans were translators, soldiers that had risked their lives and fought alongside us. That was the messaging coming from the Biden administration. If we questioned it, like you said, we were called xenophobic and all kinds of other horrible things. But the problem is that created this culture from the top level down that made the priority opening up our aircraft and getting as many Afghans, regardless of who they were, onto these airplanes and flown out so that the State Department could brag about the massive amount of numbers that they uplifted. You just heard the Secretary of Defense do that a few days ago. Well, it turns out that we were not doing any screening, as anyone who's ever experienced a process like this could tell from the work on the ground. But what I want to point to call people's attention to is that we lost 13 U.S. troops right now because of this horrible operation. They were pushed out into that crowd because of the culture coming from the top ranks of the Biden administration that we had to get out a sheer number of Afghans. We lost 13 great, brave Americans because the basic safety protocols were foregone just to get these Afghans on the plane. And now we find out that we're bringing in child molesters and probably potentially terrorists. We don't know who we have because we failed to screen them.
Well, we're also finding out now that thousands of Afghans who had SIVs, who were interpreters because there was a chaotic process, didn't get those flights on those planes with the time ticking down. I want to take a look. You mentioned the top ranks of how DHS Secretary Mayorkas spun the screening process today. Take a listen, then we'll get your take on the other side.
The federal government has established a robust screening and vetting architecture with the dual goals of protecting the homeland and providing protections for vulnerable Afghans. We undertake quality control checks at every step of the travel process, including while the individuals are en route and before deplaning.
Yeah, so he used that word robust. I hope that's the case, but what we've seen so far, that isn't the case. NBC News reports that of more than 30,000 evacuees from Afghanistan to the U.S., about 10,000 needed additional screening as of Friday. So, Joe, do you have any faith that he can manage this refugee crisis, especially given how he's handled the border?
I have no faith whatsoever. As you pointed out, the way the Biden administration has handled the border crisis makes them completely and totally uncredible. It seems like the entire goal of this is just to bring more unvetted refugees and illegal immigrants essentially into the heartland of America. That's what they're doing by opening up these military bases. I've worked heavily on this SIV process before when we were getting out of Iraq. It takes a good deal of time. You cannot work in the sheer volume that we're working in right now. And the bottom line is we shouldn't have brought all these people out of region. They should have been sent up to the Panjshir to fight against the Taliban, to fight for their actual country. Just because you serve in an America-funded unit overseas, that does not buy you an automatic golden ticket to the U.S. heartland. We were over there to help those people, and we did help those people. Lots of things went wrong. I could talk about that for days, probably. However, the people that we have a commitment to get out, there is not that many. It's the interpreters. It's some of the intelligence sources. That's the bottom line. And we should have identified those people a long time ago. That shows that the military had no serious plans to actually evacuate Afghanistan. And that shows that really the Biden administration only cares about having this eyewash, this great statistic that they saved all these Afghans, but the end result will just be another 100,000 or so refugees that the Democrats can then translate into voters further down the road. That's the same plan they have down at the southern border.
Joe, you mentioned fighting for your country. You, of course, have fought for our country. Your beautiful wife, Shannon Kent, also fought for our country. She was killed in action in Syria in 2019. Just wanted to get your reaction to President Biden checking his watch at Dover Air Base last weekend.
It's an absolute disgrace. It really is. The commander-in-chief's job, he is the person ultimately at the end of the day that sent troops forward that tragically lose their lives. He has one small job on that day, and it is to represent a grateful nation, and he failed to do that. What I think we really have to call attention to, though, is that Joe Biden's just not all there. He's clearly declining mentally. This is at the point of being senior abuse. However, Joe Biden has been doing this for so long. He's been sending young men and women off to die in these conflicts. He voted for the Iraq War. He voted for additional surges in Afghanistan. He was supposed to have us out of Afghanistan as the vice president. And then it's on record that he knew things were going poorly in Afghanistan in 2010. Right. He wanted us out and he didn't act. So this is just another day at the office for a permanent ruling class and people like Joe Biden. So it is a complete disgrace. He needs to be impeached for this.